We're live. I am going to be talking with Megs from the Eyebrow Goddess. I'm going to invite her in here right now, and we're going to be talking all about her expansion from artist to online educator. So let's get her in here. Hi,
Hi.
how are you?
Good, good. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you. Can you hear
Okay.
me?
Yep.
Yeah. Amazing. How have you been? How's the day?
Good, good. How's your day going?
It's going really good. I've been really excited for this. I feel like it's been
Yes,
such a
me
long
too.
time coming.
Yeah.
Okay, well, so we're finally here. I got to feature you, what was that, like almost 2 months ago now?
I think so. It's been
Wild.
weird.
Okay, so we're finally here actually chatting so I could hear your story right from your mouth. So go ahead and introduce yourself and tell me like a little bit about your beauty business, like in studio, and then a little bit about your shift to online.
Yeah, okay. So I've been an esthetician for 10 years. I have a brick and mortar where I see clients for eyebrows. I do brow threading predominantly, and then I also do brow tinting, lamination, lash lifts, and then recently I added facials back into my in-person treatment space. And I also teach on the side where I teach hand-tied threading and then brow lamination. I don't really have like super hard structure for my in-person trainings. I like to keep them customizable, so it depends on what the beauty professional wants to learn from me, and then
That's
we go from
awesome.
there. And then I have an online hand-tied threading course and working towards a brow lamination course as well.
Okay, awesome. So you started specifically, if I can remember correctly, with brows and you've expanded from there. Was it more so aesthetics and you expanded to brows?
So when I first went to beauty school, it was for skincare. I suffer
Okay.
from acne, and so I think any of us who have ever dealt with acne know that a lot of the times that draws us into the aesthetics world, to try to figure out what's going on, why am I experiencing this, what can I do about it, and that was the same thing for me. And then I think that we all go through once you go through beauty schools, once you get out of beauty school, you kind of go, what do I do now? Because obviously you have to earn a living, and so
Right.
started my own business, and then of course as somebody fresh out of beauty school, like it didn't go anywhere, and I love to talk about how that was a major flop because I had no clientele, so like who was coming to see me? And so after I realized that that wasn't going to be the reality, I found a small boutique in my area to start working as an employee, and they taught me how to thread. And once I learned threading, I was like, oh wait, I actually really like this, because I just didn't really enjoy doing eyebrows with waxing. I always felt, sticky, and it was messy, and it was a lot of work, and it was scary, especially as a new artist, like applying a wax strip and just like hoping for the best, that I like
Right.
placed it right, proper location, that it's not dripping or moving or any of the 101 things, that I'm not going to lift their skin, or they gave me the right background or anything like that. I think when you're a new
Right.
artist, like 100 things that go through your brain. So when I learned threading, I was like, oh, I can clearly see what I'm doing. I don't have to worry about what skincare products they're using at home, or if they remember to stop using their retinol and different things like that. And so once I learned threading, I really just like dove in. The location that I was working at didn't have the space for aesthetics treatments like facials and things like that. So
Okay.
we were a little brow bar and makeup boutique. So I just focused on brows, and I got really good at threading, and the rest is kind of history. That was kind of what I dove into, and I just kept at it. And, that was 10 years ago now. And so just now reintroducing facials back into my studio space. So I really spent the last decade honing my brow craft and my threading skills.
That's awesome. And did they not teach you any sort of threading in aesthetic school? Like that's not part of the curriculum at all?
No, not at all. Not, I mean, I think that notoriously in the United States, every state is super different. And then even within each state, the beauty schools are all really different. And
Right.
I have a little sister who just went through aesthetics program. She just got licensed in February, and like even hearing her story, of course, a decade's apart, right? They're very, very different worlds of, but even talking to her, like we had a completely different experience going through beauty school. So I think that everyone's a little bit different. I personally went and spoke at her school and talked about brow lamination and threading and things like that. I did a demo while she was in school. So I just don't think that we had that. Like we didn't have people coming in and doing demos. We had like reps trying to sell us on skincare products and skincare
Oh,
lines. which I think is pretty average, especially 10 years ago. But like, we didn't learn about lash extensions. We didn't learn about brow lamination. I don't even really think was a thing 10 years ago in the United States
No.
for us. And certainly not threading. I notoriously love to say that the only thing I knew about threading in beauty school was the one sentence that was in my Miladies textbook.
Really interesting. That's so cool. Well, first of all, that was so cool that you're able to go and speak at your sister's school and like
Yeah.
share that experience with her in her class. But like just to hear like, yeah, it's 10 years, things have changed, but like that it's
Mhm.
changed so drastically. But even to think like that lamination wasn't a thing, like even maybe 5 years ago, I don't think it was that common.
I agree. I totally agree. I feel like, obviously, I think most of us are aware that like a lot of the beauty trends come from overseas and different things like that, where
Yeah.
we, as the United States, I feel like we kind of get the end of it. Like, we're not really the ones starting these trends.
No,
I feel like a lot of the
we're
time
not.
we're kind of playing catch up. And I think with brow lamination, especially, it took us a minute to get to it. And then I think the other thing that happens is that the beauty industry itself gets a hold of these really cool services and we're really excited about them, but then it's a whole nother ballgame of trying to get your clients excited about them. So I think that's the reason it takes a little while for things to catch on.
That is so true. And like you think about all of the different like terminology if you're talking about like brow lamination or even just like in permanent makeup, which is my background of like we have all these different words and clients are just like, I want microblading. But you're like, well, no, not exactly, but sure, we'll run with that word for you.
Yeah, I think terminology
So
is really tricky in the industry. I think with social media especially, I think people like to put their like own spin on things and name things, and I think that
yes.
leads to a little bit of confusion and we're like, are we on the same page? Are we talking about the same thing?
It's so true. When I first started my very first lash course, they didn't name or they didn't number like the lengths of lashes. They wanted to call each one a different name so that they would sound different, which was like so confusing when I got out of the course and had to like buy from other brands. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, you don't have ultra long? And they were like, no.
No,
So
it's
yeah, there's a lot of that going on.
I agree.
Okay, so lamination, you obviously went in and talked to your sister's school about it. Threading is your main, like your, probably your, I would call it your specialty, right?
Yeah, I feel like the
Okay.
that I chose. Yeah.
Okay. So you have a course in threading and you're creating one in lamination. So tell me more about that, how that started and how you ended up teaching online and what that looks like.
Yeah, so I think that I had a little bit of a different experience when it came to teaching. I think a lot of people who get into the educational like section of our industry, like they have people in their area reaching out wanting to learn it, and I actually didn't have that experience. So I'm in a very small town, and so my first experience teaching was actually people that I met on here on Instagram, and they were not from my area. And so my actual first time teaching was virtually. It was right off the back of COVID. I believe it was 2021. So there was a lot of virtual education. I think that was the boom of virtual education because we really couldn't go anywhere or do anything or meet with people.
Yeah.
And for most of us in the beauty industry, we weren't able to work. So it was the perfect time to reinvest in ourselves and educate ourselves and learn a new skill or sharpen our skills that we already had. And I had something to offer. And there's not a ton of online education for threading. I think most people really like to do it in person and hands on. But I think the reasoning for that is the same with my experience of how I learned threading. There was a lot of just like, watch what I do and copying me, and there wasn't a lot of like technical terms. So when I did my first training, it was just like on a Zoom like this, where I was talking them through. I had like a doll head. I was walking through the how I threaded, and I even felt kind of stumbling over my words on how do I translate what I'm physically doing to somebody not with me. And so that was actually the first few hiccups when I got into teaching, was how do I take something that I like intrinsically know and then translate it into verbiage that makes sense. And I also heard from a lot of students that like, oh, I watched a YouTube video or I watched an Instagram video and I just like couldn't figure it out. And I kept coming back to the fact that I think that the issue was that there wasn't terminology to break down what was happening. I think when we think in the form of waxing, we know like applying that, we have wax stick, we've got hard soft wax, we have like a lot of terminology around it that made it easier to understand, whereas threading is like very technical. You know, there's kind of a lot of moving parts. And so I had to go through and name all of those parts. So the first step when I was learning how to teach, right? I'm teaching and I understand the education, I understand what I'm doing, but you kind of have to build curriculum. And I had to kind of work backwards. I had to kind of watch myself thread and figure out what I needed to explain to people so that they
What
understood
each
what
movement was.
I was. Yeah.
Interesting. That's so cool.
Yeah, so that was really tricky, but now it feels better because I can look. I think the thing that people don't understand when they want to teach is like, I think it's one thing to know how to do something. I think we compare it to makeup a lot, where we're like, I can apply makeup on myself, like I don't know how to translate that to somebody else's face. Like I think
Right.
it's similar to that. A lot of us understand the techniques of what we're doing, and I think a lot of it's muscle memory. And so it's just like, how do you take something that you have muscle memory for and explain it to somebody else who does not have that muscle memory? And so I think that for my brain, anyways, I had to break down everything that I was doing and put that into words and verbiage that translated. And now my students are able to learn even without me being there.
That's amazing. And that's like really so cool and like groundbreaking that like maybe there are other courses out there, but that you had to like find the words because it was never taught in such a way that you were like, everybody just like, do this. And you're like, okay, well,
Yeah.
I can't say do this when like,
Yeah.
yeah, they're watching a video, but it's not the same.
100%.
That's really, really cool. So you created, obviously started on Zoom and then you
Mhm.
created a program around it.
Yeah, so I wanted to something that was in the educational world. I feel like we call it evergreen. So something that can be done without me physically being present. Because I think when we want to move into earning more in the aesthetics world, we have maxed ourselves out, right? So taking as many clients as we can, we've maxed ourselves out. We feel like we're hitting that ceiling, and we're like, how can I earn more while not like pushing myself any further than I already am? And so it was kind of the same thing with education. I wanted to teach, but I was already seeing so many clients. So how do I work that into a busy schedule, right? And so building an evergreen course made it to where something that I can give to them and they can learn without me physically having to be present or us on a call or anything like that.
Right.
And so I broke everything down. I had a threading manual for my one-on-one teaching and online learning and things like that. And so I kind of just like looked at the manual and was like, how do I take everything that I would teach during a demo or them taking models or whatever in the one-on-one course or training and then put it into a course. So that turned into, I think, just over 30 videos broken out into, I believe, 10 chapters. And then a little bit of a manual expansion. I wanted there to be more visual learning. I think one of the things that I noticed in the courses that I've taken over the years is there's a lot of like, buy my course, and it's like a 45-minute video. And I'm like, well, that's not exactly what I was looking for. And so I
Yeah.
wanted more than that. I wanted it to feel like a real true course that I could start and finish. You can rewatch and learn and all those things. So I built out a bunch of videos, like bite size. I didn't want anything that was going to be 45 minutes long or an hour long. And so there's chapters broken down so that everything you can do in its own way. And then the manual correlates with the video chapters. So everything kind of cohesively goes together. And I also wanted it to be something that could work for a variety of learners. I feel like we've got like hands-on learning, visual learners, and different things like that. So I just wanted it to be something that could be an umbrella for any type of learning anywhere.
That's so cool. And I love that you like broke it down into like bite size. And like that's what I try and do with my programs too, because you never know like how much time somebody has to go in and learn, right? They might have like 5 or 10 minutes where they can get in there and learn something or learn a piece of it and then come back an hour later or come back the next day, where those 45-minute ones are so like cumbersome. And like if you're
Mm-hmm.
ever just looking for like to go back and watch the piece, now you have to like find it in the
Mm-hmm.
video and just be able to go find that one video, that one part that you're struggling with or whatever. Is just like that's amazing. That's a great
Yeah.
way to educate.
Yes, I feel like it's just daunting when there's too much.
Yeah.
And I know that I feel like the cool part about, beauty providers educating other beauty providers is that we've all been in their shoes before. So I just feel like the best teachers that I've worked with are ones that have learned a lot. They say forever learners, right? And so they're always trying to like break the mold a little bit and not make the same cookie cutter education that they've dealt with in the past. And not to knock any other educators, but kind of learning from what other educators have done and just made the complete opposite, kind of like whatever I didn't like is not what I'm doing.
Exactly. Yeah. We're like learning from what we went through, but then also like the education that we went through. And I always like trying to say like create what you wish you had, right? So like something to be able, whatever you think you wish you had at that moment, to be able to be better, to learn it better. Like if you can recreate that, that's like the perfect missing piece of the industry.
Yeah, exactly. I love that.
That's awesome. Okay, so you created this and you had it hosted. I think you told me you had it hosted on your website.
Yeah, so I right around when I was building my course, Squarespace dropped that they were going, I think again, because all of the online education is so popular right now, they
Mhm.
launched that they were gonna have like a version that's similar to like Teachable or like things like
Okay.
that where it could host these videos. And I really loved that I could just do it. I understood Squarespace. I had built my own website, and so I was familiar with the platform. But one of the things that kept bothering me throughout the process was that like there was nowhere for my students to leave a comment or send me a message. And there was just a little too much legwork for them to reach out and connect with me. And I'm one of those teachers that I just don't feel like I just want to deliver you a course and then be like, okay, bye, hope you do well. Like
Yeah.
I want mentorship. That's something that I've gone through recently, and I really, really enjoy not only the mentorship or the one-on-one with who's teaching you, but also the community around, like the other students who are learning the same thing. And so that was really just missing. And there was no way, I'm not a website coder or anything. So I won't say that Squarespace doesn't do it. It was just not something that I could feasibly figure out. And I am in a mentorship program right now on School, which is an online platform. And I really love it because they have like a running feed, kind of similar to like Facebook, where you can like make posts and people can comment on them. And then they also have like a one-on-one chat, kind of like DMs. And then they also allow you to host lives. So like a live one-on-one. And there's like a calendar and everything, and we can plug it in. So everything just like works all within one platform. It's its own app, which I think is really cool that students can just download an app, have access to me like in their pocket, and also the course, right? They can have the rewatching videos in between a client. We talking about bite-sized videos. Like it's really cool that the bite-sized videos are easily accessible. So I just wanted things to be accessible. I wanted me to be accessible, and I also wanted to build that community that I love when I'm learning, and not in a way that's kind of toxic. Like I feel like the Facebook groups that we've all dealt with are a little bit more toxic and negative. And so this is a really cool way for me to give that community that the Facebook groups have, while also controlling the narrative and making sure that it's a safe space and judgment free.
Yeah, it's a private space where everybody who's in there wants to be learning and improving.
Mhm.
It's not, yeah, there's a lot of that we see.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's super cool. So you came across School because you were in a program through school?
Yeah, correct.
Okay, that's really neat. And I've looked into School. I've heard a lot about it, but I haven't made wanted to make the switch because of how I've been hosting in Kajabi for like a long time, so it
Yeah,
has all that back end. It is a lot pricier than School, so I'm always like looking around to that because I'm always wanting to obviously spend less money in my business, but
yeah.
bring my students away for them to spend less money in their business as well. So what do you really love about School beyond the community? Has it been easy for you to switch over? Like what's going on with all that?
Yeah, I was actually really surprised because that was what was hesitant about. Like, I think anybody who's built a course in any way, shape, or form knows that it's a daunting task. Like, it's a lot of work. There's a lot of moving parts. One thing I was really adamant about when I built my course is that I wanted to have everything that I built still. So I had all of my videos and my whole manual and all of the like little bits and pieces. In my manual, I did a lot of like hand illustration. So I retained all of the things that I built for my curriculum.
Yeah.
It was shockingly easy. I think one thing that we don't give ourselves enough credit for is once you've built a course, you can do it again. Like you have the skills, you've already worked your butt off to like learn the things. And technology can be like overwhelming. I totally get that. But I was shocked at how easy it was for me just to plug and play. So I followed how I had it laid out on my Squarespace, and then I just dropped it all into School, and it was really, really easy. I think there's always like a little bit of like troubleshooting and just trying to figure it out, but I really didn't even have to Google anything. I feel like everything was very clear cut and in your face about all of it. And there was a lot of, I mean, one thing that I would say is that I do love that my website is like colorful and beautiful and like my own little, taste of my branding. But aside from that, everything that you would have gotten on my website is now available in School, along with extra things that we didn't have prior.
That's really cool. And that's amazing that it was super easy for you to move it over. Cause I know I've been from Teachable to Thinkific to Kajabi, and like it's always just such a pain to like download all the videos and then to transfer them over and then make sure they're in the right order. And like you're right, it's probably not like that hard, but it's just like so tedious. So it's nice to hear that it was went well for you.
Yeah. No, I was really surprised because that was one of the things that I was talking to my mentor about. I was like, I don't know, like I don't I've already built the course. So I really don't want like the work
Yeah.
that's attached it, and it was shockingly easy. I mean, I think one thing also is that like we said about the bite-sized videos, not having a video that's like an hour long is definitely a lot easier to manage and move around.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
fact that the videos weren't super long, I think definitely helped the legwork a little bit. And I think the other thing too is the reason that I've loved teaching threading is that it's really truly my bread and butter. Like I know it in and out. So I think, you know, creating a course, recreating a course, doing all of those things, like even going through it, I was just like, oh, I want to talk about this and I want to talk about that. Like it almost just reignites your passion for what you're teaching. And I love threading. So moving it over was really fun. And now I'm excited to host my first live on there and do all the things. Also inviting my current students over was also easy. There was an option that school allowed me to invite people for free access. And of course,
Awesome.
again, right? I want them just to be welcomed into the new platform. And so I was really happy that that was an option and not something that I had to like figure out how to discount to allow them access or whatever that was. So I was really happy that that was also something that was easy because I think that's something else that would hold people back from wanting to, you know, go onto a new platform.
Yeah. That's a really cool feature that you can just pull them in for free without having to like, yeah, create a discount or like manually make the sale because sometimes that's how we have to do it. That's really interesting. I love that.
Yeah.
And so you also mentioned, okay, it's not quite as like pretty and bright and vibrant. I always love your branding. Is there some sort of customization in there that you can like change coloring a bit or not really?
I don't think so. Not that I've found. But
Okay.
also I feel like the one cool thing is that as much as I do love branding, and I think there's elements of that in my manual is still very much so colorful and exactly as it was before. And you can attach like below a video, I could put like an image. So like there's very much so my stuff laced throughout it. As
That's
far as
awesome.
like changing its coloring on there, no. But I think the other thing that's really cool about it, and I think maybe something I lost sight of when I was building my course, and I think a lot of us in the aesthetics community, we love beautiful things. I think that's why we're here. We love things to look very cohesive and aesthetically pleasing. But I think the other thing that's really important is to remember that the most important part is education. So I think it's kind of nice that it's not too busy and the most important stuff on the page is always what you're trying to teach. And I think it really brings people's attention to the videos and the, you know, the course itself. So as much as I do love like pretty branding, I do find that it is nice that it's just a clean white slate with just what you want to teach.
Well, and that's awesome because like you really do have to remember people are buying your course because they want the value that comes like with it that comes from
Mm-hmm.
you, right? So it's like the quickest, easiest, most simplest way to get them to that result. Yeah, okay, if it looks pretty, it looks pretty. But I think sometimes we also purchase courses that don't have the value and are beautiful, and then we're missing out on that. Whereas if you can just focus in on the value, it's so
Mm-hmm.
much better.
I completely agree.
Yeah. That's awesome. Okay. So you said you're super excited to get in there and host your first like live session. So can you tell us like a little bit about like what that's going to look like?
Yeah, I mean, I think the cool thing, one of the biggest things that also drew me to the school platform is that it's really easy to add in things. So I think when we're especially with Squarespace, building something behind the scenes took a lot of effort to add anything in and like
Okay.
rework spaces and things like that. Whereas school allows you to have like multiple courses sitting within the community itself and you know like the posts on the feed and things like that I can add things at any time. So I feel like my first live will really just be connecting with the members that are in it and seeing what they need from me and like what are we troubleshooting, what in any of my videos didn't make sense, and kind of just figuring out. I feel like one of the cool things with the community element of anything course related is that like my course may make sense to me and my brain, but like I don't know how it's translating to you. So I really like the community element to be like, hey, this doesn't make sense, or could you clarify this, or could you make a video about this? One of my students asked for a video of threading along with lamination because the hairs are a little bit situated a little bit different on the face. So
Right.
that's another video I'm working on right now to add into my course. So I really think it's cool that I have that's what I was missing from my previous platform was the feedback element. I want to know what's working and what's not working and what do you need extra from me and things like that. So not only can they reach out to me with questions, but they can also ask for more. And I also felt like with the platform that I was using previously, it really truly was just threading. Whereas in this community, I rebranded it to Brow Education, which is the same name as my podcast, because I didn't want it to just stop at threading. I wanted the threading course to be maybe why you sign up, but the education and the mentorship and the continued additive of education to be why you stay. So
That's
I
awesome.
cool that it's not just going to be um threading. Like it's going to be threading with lamination or lamination tips or business advice or tinting or anything like that. I wanted it just to be an open thing where it's not just one course or one brow technique or one thing. It's really just learning what I've done for the last 10 years and anything you want to learn that's related to my technique or how I handle my in-person clients.
That's awesome. That I love that. And I love that it's so expansive in that sense. So is the way that you have it set up on school now, is it now like a membership?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah,
So
okay.
school allows you to do a membership program or you can do an annual charge. So they can
Okay.
choose between those. It depends on how you decide to set it up. So mine's set up right now as a monthly membership and
That's awesome.
it's $222 a month. And I feel like for what you're getting out of it, like a live, the messaging, you have full access to me at any time. I'm also offering one-on-one calls for any of my students or anybody interested in the course or the mentorship program. So I just want it to be more connected. You know, I just didn't want people buying the course and then bye. So this is a really cool way for me to stay involved in their lives and their careers and how they're building their new technique and skill.
That's awesome. And I think that's like kind of the transition that online education is slowly going to. Like we started with these really solid online courses where like, yeah, you got them, but it was kind of like, here it is, bye. Maybe there was the odd coaching call or something like that. And we're shifting more to, first of all, wanting maybe a little bit of a lower price point to get ourselves into it and then get access to so much growing knowledge plus access to the actual educator. Because like as the world gets more online, we lose that connection, right? And then as we add in like AI, we lose even more of that connection. So the fact that you're in there, like even just chatting in the feed and then hosting your lives is like such a huge difference from just like a course sitting by itself.
100%. That's exactly how I felt and how I felt in the past. You know, like I think you're so right on all those points, but also like uh, I think the cool thing with the online world is the connection and the ability to find your people. And like,
Yeah.
I think that the same way we learned back in, you know, elementary school or, you know, when we were younger, like working as a team in a community does make us better. You know,
Yeah.
I think that, and the same way that like, I don't know what questions my students have, but one person asking might lead to three more people asking. Like, I think that there's just a lot to build and lift each other up. And then you also have this some support element. When in my mentorship, I posted about my course or whatever, and I got a ton of like, so proud of you for creating that, like so excited for you. And like the amount of just support and community and things like that, I think it's really just carving out areas where we get that. And I think for those of us who are sole proprietors, there's so much like loneliness that comes with working completely by yourselves. Like, do we have our clients? Yes, 100%. But it's nice to be able to talk to people who get what your day-to-day looks like and fully understand the ins and outs and the ups and downs of what you're going through.
That's awesome. And yeah, the fact that you're building that and pulling to get it together is so awesome. So that being said, you had mentioned that you're going to be expanding into like more browses. Are you bringing in the lamination into that next? Is that what you're working on?
Yeah, that's my
Yeah.
plan. I want to be able to have it to where, like I said, that if they want to learn brows or if they're already a brow artist and they want to level up or they just got a beauty school and this is the niche they've chose, I want my mentorship program to be the one that they can choose to learn with and then have access to me, right? So they can learn threading and they can learn brow lamination. But the other reason is truly that I think that lamination and threading really go hand in hand. I think when we're laminating, we're sensitizing the skin a little bit with the solutions. And at the end of the treatment, we tell them not to exfoliate for the next like 20 or 48 to 72 hours. It just feels so like it feels so conflicting to then go and wax and exfoliate their face after telling them that their skin is sensitized. It just feels like a conflict of interest to me. And so I've always only offered the option for threading, even though I do offer waxing. If you're getting a lamination with me in my studio space, you're getting threaded automatically. And so I think in that being my philosophy of how I handle my students, or my clients, I think it makes sense for me to also in turn give that to my students. If you know threading, you can also know lamination, and then they can also work well together. And I think it's just a matter of me. If you want to learn from me, the artist, right, you enjoy seeing my work, why not give you everything that I do in my mentorship program? So I'm hoping to bring in lamination and I think that I also am somebody who tints a little bit differently. I'm not like a brow artist who's like obsessed with hybrid. Like I really do love a natural tint. And I think that that's something we don't see a lot of education wise. I think hybrid tint has kind of taken the top spot for tinting education. And I think it'll be really cool to give them something a little bit softer. That's what my clientele prefers. And I know that there's a lot of other clientele that also feel that way. So I just want to bring like kind of my special way of looking at brows into the mentorship program and give them everything that I know and then in turn put it in there.
And that's awesome because like that's literally what I tell my students or anybody who's trying to get into whether it's educating in person or educating online is that you have to do like teach the things that first of all you're really good at but that you're passionate about. So like
Mm-hmm.
you're passionate about the fact that after lamination we shouldn't be waxing, we should be threading, and then you like to tint in a certain way though it's more natural. Like these are the things that are setting your brow education apart from somebody else and why there's really space for so many of us to teach.
Absolutely. And I say the same thing about threading too. I'm like, I feel like we hear a lot from a new person getting out of beauty school that like the market is very saturated. And I don't disagree. I think that there's so many people offering these services. And I think that we do have to, I think that's why niching down became so popular and choosing a specialty is because it does help you stand out. And the cool thing I think in the brow world is that there's not a ton of really excellent threaders. I think that waxing is still very much so the first line of attack when it comes to doing brows. And I think I am enjoying helping others find the element of threading. And I think the other thing is as the beauty industry gets bigger and clients are doing more, I think something we've noticed in the previous few years is that clients are doing more skincare than ever before. I think most people have a pretty dialed in routine. And I think that most of us, if you're using a retinol or an acne med, I'm not really wanting to take a few days off in order to get my brows waxed. Like, I think that there's so many ways that I think threading connects with other beauty services, and it's so easy to learn. You know, I was just talking about how it's like $3.50 for a spool of thread that lasts me like 6 months, and like the amount of money you can make off that one spool of thread in 6 months,
wild,
insurmountable. And I think that, like you were just saying earlier, we want to do things that are less overhead for us. We're spending less in our business so we can continue to earn more and actually see more of that money instead of it right back into the business. And I firmly agree with that. I always love cutting costs and lowering my overhead. And threading is one of those things that if I didn't have threading, I would have never been able to learn lamination. I would never have been able to invest back into tinting and all the things that have grown over my 10 years in the business because my overhead was always consistently super low. And at the end of every year, I'm so surprised that threading is my biggest earner because I can just fit so many in my day, and there's just it's pennies, you know, that it costs me to.
Yeah.
I think that's an important lesson.
That's so awesome. And that's so awesome that you can add that into your education as well. And then even going back to what you said like a minute ago about the fact that so many people are into their skincare, right? And if you're not necessarily went to aesthetic school and know about how skincare can affect with waxing, now you can kind of teach that in your program as well so that they can understand why threading is even better and explain that to their clients.
Yes, exactly.
It all comes together. I love it.
Yeah. And I think that like it's easier. I feel like when we have I always like to say like the jack of all trades is like you're just not a specialist in anything, any one thing. But I think when your specialties all mesh really well together, it's easier for you to understand, and it's also easier for you to sell to a client. Like I think it just makes that whole process the same way bringing in a skincare line that you don't believe in, like you're not going to sell it, right? So I think that when you have these services that mesh really well together, the whole reason I brought in skincare treatments is because I was seeing, you know, my brow clients' results not looking as good because of their skin. So like, how can I serve them one way? Yeah. So facials is another way, offering them skincare products that can help. Oh, you have redness, or your tint isn't lasting as long because your skin's too dry, or your oil production is out of control, or different things like that. It's just like, I think that we've pulled away from all of the things with niching down, and now I feel like we've redeveloped how we niche down. So it's not that I can only do one thing, it's that I can only do one thing within my philosophy of doing all of the things.
Yes. Yeah. And I was just thinking that it's like you have a specialty, but you have an expertise like surrounding the specialty that makes it unique to you and the way you can offer it and the way you can teach it as well.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
I love that.
And I think that's the fun thing with teaching is that like I said earlier, like you're a forever learner. So I feel like even if every student that I teach, every piece of educational content I make, I'm learning, right? I'm becoming better. I'm figuring out what I truly believe when it comes to aesthetics and what I want to offer to my clients and my students in the world and everything like that. So I think it's fun, and it helps me be a better artist. It helps me be a better business owner and things like that. So I think they all go hand in hand, and I think that's why so many students become teachers, is because once they've learned, they also want to in turn share that with other people. And I love that element about it. I think there's so much to learn, and the industry is constantly changing. So I think that and I also, even before becoming an esthetician, I've always loved learning. So I think that that's what the one thing that can be really cool about being a small business owner is, like, it's so hard, but if you have a passion for it, and you kind of have to figure out what continuously reignites that passion, and education has always helped me get a boost of motivation or get an inspiration or anything like that. I feel like educating and learning and all of those things can really help just keep continuing to push you forward.
That's awesome. And yeah, like you have to always, especially as business owners, as entrepreneurs, we have to always keep learning and growing. You can't stay the same. We have to keep moving forward. So with that, I have two more questions for you. Number one is, how can people join your program? How can they learn from you? How can they get into your school membership?
Yeah, so I made it really easy. Like, you just click the link in my bio and it shows you a hand-tied threading course, and you just click that and it'll go. But I've been trying to be better about posting on my stories and constantly having those conversations. And I also have like a free discovery call. So if you're curious about just chatting with me and learning a little bit more about me, I have that available in my link in bio as well. And then I'm also trying to build a little bit, the cool thing with school is that you can have multiple communities. So I want to also build a free community for brow artists. Another way to build a community that is, controlled and based on lifting people up. So I'm working on that right now, and that will give you kind of an insight to what the paid course looks like and give you kind of like a little behind the scenes. And then if you want the full course, you can upgrade from there. So
Awesome.
I'm trying to make it as easy as possible for anybody, but you can also DM me anytime and reach out, and I'm happy to answer questions or direct you in the right direction.
Okay, great. I love that. I will put some of that in the caption so that people can contact you really easy when I do the replay.
Yeah.
Last question. What is your advice for anybody who is thinking about moving from artist to educator, who wants to expand online and start sharing what they know, their expertise with the world?
I think one of the big things, and this is just like, I think entrepreneurship as a whole, the really cool thing about being an entrepreneur, and especially in the aesthetics world, is I think we tend to need to be really introspective. I think we have to sit with ourselves and figure out our why a lot of the times. And I think the least successful entrepreneurs and estheticians are the ones that are just in it for money. So I think if you have your why and it's not just to earn more, I'm not knocking earning more. I think all of us would like to make more money. I think that's one of the cool things about being an entrepreneur, is that the sky's the limit. But I think if that's the only reason you're in for it, is just like the quickest way to flop. So I think as long as your goal and your passion lines in really wanting to spread what you've learned, I think you're going to be successful. And I think there's a level of introspection that you have to sit with what your why is and then figure out how to sell it. But I also think that I'm a firm believer in jumping before you're ready. My courses have seen so many different versions, right? From the very first Zoom call that I did, the education that I'm teaching now is very, very much so different. So I'm a big proponent of leaping before you're ready and just put it out there. I think you can always fine tune, you can always edit, you can always go back in. Even now, talking about the community base for my current platform, I want feedback. Tell me what's working and what's not working. So I think that we get a little in our heads a little bit when we start building education, and we're like, is this right? Is this perfect? Is it all the things? And it doesn't have to be. You can always, especially on the platforms that they're building nowadays, like school and things like that, you can add in anytime. So if you forgot something or you're missing something, like, there's always going to be an opportunity for you to make it better and perfect it later. So I think if you're wanting to do it, just dive in and do it. Create whatever you can create and just get it going, so that once you get your first few students, they can start giving you feedback and telling you what's working and what's not working. And then you can just continue to perfect from there.
Yeah, and just keep going from there. That's like such good advice. And the funny thing is, like, after this call, I literally have recording sessions set aside to add to my program. Like,
yeah, I think
you're still always adding, right? It's never finished, and you're always learning something new or adding something new and making it better. So don't hold yourself back because it's not perfect. I love that.
And I think also just remembering that, I think the same way that as a small little baby SD, we're so nervous about what are they going to learn from me? Like, how am I going to help a client? You went to school. You already inherently know more than your clients. Like, that is the beauty of it. You don't need to know more than that. Like, start where you're at, and then you can just grow from there. I think that we have to remember, as we get to a level of where we're now teaching, whatever you've learned and whatever you perfected, if you were able to get clients in the door, if you're booked and busy, you've already done the thing that, baby SDs or somebody newer is looking for. If somebody's converting from facials to now wanting to add brows, you inherently know more than them because you've been doing brows. So I think that we get a lot of imposter syndrome, and we just have to remember to push through that, because whoever's choosing to learn from you, inherently wants to know what you have to offer. So I think that we get in our head a little bit, and you just got to shake it out and put yourself out there.
Absolutely. It's like a few steps ahead. It doesn't have to be like 100 steps, a couple steps, and you know what you're talking about. You can teach on it.
Absolutely.
Okay, I love that. Thank you so much for
Of
coming and talking to me
course.
today. Is there any last things you wanted to share, or do you feel like we got it all out?
I feel like we got it all out. That was
Yeah,
really great. I loved your questions.
good. Thank you. Well, thanks for coming again. And yeah, I'm going to put some info in the caption so people can get in contact with you if they want to join Brow Education.
Yay! Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. Have a great day, babe.
Yeah, you too.
Bye.